Hi, thanks for coming to the video today. My name is Jason Fierstein. I'm the counselor for men, and I'm spending a lot of time this month sharing information with you about how to deal more effectively with anger. Especially for men, men have such a difficult time dealing with anger, their angry feelings, and it often comes out expressed in a way that pushes others away or destroys relationships. And we usually feel powerless or out of control about the effects of our anger after it's happened. So last week we talked about uh, stuffing anger, and this week we're going to talk about blowing up. So we talked last time about how stuffing anger can lead to problems in marriage or in work-related situations or jobs. Um, and this week I want to talk more about the other end of the spectrum, which is the blowing up part. So again, this is one point that I want to share with you, is that these are two ends of the spectrum. It doesn't mean that if you stuff your anger that you don't blow up. You can do both. And a lot of the men that I talk with usually do both. They'll stuff their anger and they'll keep stuffing it over and over and over, and finally it's just building up like a massive pressure cooker. And then, given the right situation, the right catalyst, they blow up. And so some of the guys that I talk with will blow up on their wives or girlfriends or spouses, put their fist through a wall or door, end up saying really berating things, being verbally abusive, even physically abusive, or emotionally abusive. So it's a slippery slope from an anger explosion to abuse. And so I want to try to help you to catch that point in time where it starts to devolve into uh, behaviors that you really will end up regretting, that can be potentially relationship damaging. So see that those two things, that the stuffing the anger and blowing up, are part of this continuum of anger. If you keep stuffing and stuffing and stuffing, just like the pressure cooker, eventually the right person or the right catalyst will be there so that you blow up. And then you have to deal with the effects of the blow up, which sometimes are, losing your mate or losing your job or being alienated from others. Whatever that is, there's usually some kind of repercussion for that. Um, so that's about the ends of the spectrum. Now, some guys err more on the side of blowing up rather than stuffing and have a hard time kind of reeling it back. Okay, but the stuffing guys have a harder time learning to kind of step up and express. The right way to be is somewhere in the middle, where you're assertive and you can speak from your anger. This is an important point that I don't think a lot of people understand. Putting a name on your anger and verbalizing it to the person that needs to hear about it is perfectly fine. It's when it gets into the explosive blowing up or the aggression, then it becomes a problem. But a lot of men are afraid that, oh, I'm going to turn into the angry guy, or people are going to see me as the angry guy. No, not at all. That's just an identity. But if you deal effectively with your anger, you'll be somewhere in the sweet spot where you can communicate from your anger in a way that actually opens up conversation rather than shutting it down. I think that finding that sweet spot about being assertive, speaking from your anger, telling the person you're dealing with, I'm angry and this is why. I'm not getting my needs met. Something that you've done has made me angry. And so when you find that sweet spot in the middle of that spectrum, you don't have to commit to just piling up situations and angry responses over time where you become the pressure cooker. If you find the sweet spot, you can start to communicate your anger as it comes up. So you're dishing it out as you're experiencing it, more in the present tense rather than stuffing it from in the past. So, finding that middle ground and being able to put a name on your anger, which is perfectly okay to communicate, except that we get afraid sometimes of others being upset with us. So we have to learn how to deal with that fear and step up and deal with the irrational belief that someone might reject us if we communicate our anger with them. Of course, there's always the potential to be rejected, but that's something that you have to risk in dealing with your anger. So I think that idea is also important. And now the effects of blowing up obviously are varied, anywhere from having a partner turn away and not want to deal with you in conversation to full rejection. So I think some of those perceived effects of dealing with anger or blowing up become irrational, and those irrational beliefs keep us suspended in this fear zone where we tend to shift back towards the stuffing it side of the spectrum. So what are some things that you can do about dealing with your anger so it doesn't lead to the blow-up point? The obvious answer is one that doesn't always work. It's taking a step back, extracting yourself out of the situation. Let's be honest, when you're feeling enraged or livid, it's really hard to step out of that. So what I try to encourage is, and I do a mindfulness meditation practice which helps me to shift out of the anger into my body and into the emotions that just lie under the surface of the angry feelings. And so usually there's more vulnerable feelings, especially when you're dealing with a partner. There's oftentimes sadness or hurt or pain or fear, any of those things. And they usually reside in places in the body, which I've talked about in previous blog posts. In the heart, in the stomach, sometimes it's in the throat, things that we don't feel like we can express. So getting down into those physical sensations of the feelings behind the anger is really important. Stepping back is always, good. Watching alcohol, I think alcohol exacerbates the feelings that we don't talk about. And so when you bring alcohol into the mix, it's, game on. If alcohol is obscuring your true self, you're going to just be adding fuel to the fire. So I think alcohol is really important to look at the role and reducing it and really dealing with the issues of your anger. So those are some ideas here in this 8 minutes we've talked. If you have any other questions about it, I'd be happy to answer them for you. You can email me or come to my Facebook fan page and post a question. I appreciate you tuning in, and we'll have more next week on dealing most effectively with anger. Thanks. Take care for now.